Well, glad to have you back. Yes, the manufacturing sector in Nigeria holds immense promise as a driver of economic diversification and industrial development. While the sector plays pivotal roles in the country's economy, contributing significantly to the GDP, it grapples with a host of obstacles that hinder the harvest of its full potentials. What are these obstacles and prospects and challenges in the sector? Let's get talking. I have the right person in the house. Is the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadiri. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining this program this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tolu. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. Well, I really want to start with this issue of fluctuation in the forex exchange rates. That's for customs in particular. We've seen reactions to this saying this would affect trade facilitation one way or the other, coming up with about 30-something rates just between January and this time. How does it affect manufacturers and business people in general, in your understanding?
Okay, to put the issue of Forex in context, I believe why it is very important for us to worry about what happens to the exchange rate is the fact that it affects the normal course of doing our business. To start with, since we import some of our raw materials that are not locally available and machines and spare parts, so the rate at which we purchase those inputs will matter, and that means exchange rate is important. And the other part of it is the one you raised about the rate at which our import duty is calculated, and that is what you have mentioned. Whichever way it goes, an unfavorable exchange rate is not good for business. It means that when whatever you are doing, whatever you want to purchase is imported, you need to pay for it in foreign currency. And if the rate at which your import duty is calculated is benchmarked against the dollar, which is currency that is not yours, then you will see that the volatility in that rate will affect you. So as you will expect, it has negatively affected business in the sense that once you calculate it as a rate that is high, your cost of input will go up, and which means that it will have trickle-down effect on your capacity utilization, the price at which you sell your final product, even the price of logistics and so on and so forth. So for us, the volatility in that area has meant that you are not able to plan well. You are not able to anticipate what the entire cost structure is even before you go into production. And it means also that you will not be able to have the price competitiveness that you will expect in the marketplace. So a more stable and lower rate of calculating your import duty will be preferable for the manufacturing sector.
But it's looking pretty good. I don't know that's if you agree with me. Our reports today says FX gain ease inflation pressure on businesses as Nigeria's PMI jumps 51.1. Now, my question really would be, there have been a series of reports showing that the manufacturing sector will rebound or grow in 2024. Do you agree with this? Are you seeing those signs?
Yeah. Yes, we also made the same prediction, Tolu. We said that in the second quarter of the year, the second half of the year, that we are going to expect a rebound in the manufacturing sector. And that was because we felt that some of the reforms that this administration put in at inception were going to crystallize, and that we are going to see a lessening of the initial difficulty that in most cases normally accompanies reforms, and that we will settle down, and then we'll start to see the gain in the second half of the year. So, it is expected that productivity will also increase because we'll have overcome those challenges. But we need to examine carefully those measures that you have seen and those gains that you have applied, such that we will not be, let me use the word, carried away by the little gains, and also so that we do not also assume that we do not need to consistently take steps that will allow it to be sustainable and ultimately lead to real growth. So in the first instance, yes, the rate of exchange has improved, even though there are some little climbs now which should worry us and which should enable us to put in more steps, particularly to ensure adequacy of supply and also to ensure what is most important and what is likely to be the game changer for us, which is domestic production. We need to continue to up our game in that respect. In terms of stocking for production, in terms of acquiring our raw materials, in terms of boosting the production in the sector, we have noticed even in our manufacturers' CEO's confidence index, we have noticed that even the PMI has experienced a little gain from what we've had in the last 6 months, which is an indication that we are also beginning to adjust to the challenges that have been brought by the reform, and we are looking forward to the next half year that will be robust and enable us to proceed. This is not to say that there are no binding constraints that are likely to frustrate that upward swing in our performance. So we are able, for instance, to know that, yes, we have improved in terms of the stock of raw materials that we have, in terms of the production that we've had. We are also seeing that the upward swing that normally accompanies the end of the year, we are still seeing the results in the first half of the year. So everything put together could give that figure. But the truth of it is that there are signs that if we do not mitigate current trends that we are seeing, for instance, in the plant or in the increased cost of power, which is likely to wipe off all the gains that we have made and throw our cost structure completely out of joint, then we also have a situation where the forwards that we have in terms of the forwards that we have made in terms of sourcing our foreign exchange, if those ones are not resolved, we are likely to see a complete reversal in all the good indices that you have mentioned. So I think what it calls for is caution and the fact that we need to take certain steps that will allow us to sustain the level of progress we have seen and to see that we do not have a reversal, which will obviously not be good for an administration that has listened to the voice of stakeholders, that has promised to promote domestic production, and we have seen that steps are being taken to do just that. So we should avoid those things that are likely to distort the perception that we have and also the progress that we are making.
That's my next point of call, electricity tariff hike, and the focus is on Band A users. I'm thinking that manufacturers that will be along that line that will be affected by this, what possibly would happen? Projections, bottom lines, and all of that. We saw a bit of respite with diesel, with Dangote refinery coming on stream, but now about 300% hike in electricity tariff. What does that mean for a manufacturer that is on that band? Let's be a bit practical.
Okay, so to situate it properly, power to the manufacturer, I think the way I would say it is like blood to a human being. And it goes anywhere between 28% to 40% of our cost structure. So if there is a more than 200% increase in a major component of your cost structure, it is doomsday for you, without question. And that is why we have asked that we should be careful the way we manage our economy such that we move in the same direction. The administration has committed itself to domestic production. All the inputs that goes into ensuring that that happens must correlate with government thinking and government action. So if you are having power, which is a major component of your cost structure, increase by as much as more than 200%. What you are saying effectively is that you have to go back to the drawing board to decide whether it is worth the while for you to continue to produce. And this is what our members are actually facing at this time. It is not possible for us to pass on the cost to the consumer. So there has to be a conversation as to what measure of increase is tolerable, and whether the process of arriving at 225 naira is consultative enough, because that is what the law requires, that we have an engagement between the people who are going to supply power and the people that are going to use power, so that we'll be able to grow together. There is no point for you to increase a tariff that is not sustainable, and you will have your major buyers who are manufacturers shutting down. It is actually not an enlightened self-interest for you to have this increase. And I believe that there are quite a number of conversations taking place, and mine is actively involved. The last time we were in the National Assembly before the Senate, where we raised the grave concerns that we have. And I believe they are intervening. We are also engaging actively with the ministry, such that we'll be able to have an amicable resolution on this, and we do not unnecessarily heat up the system and distort this little progress that I said we are making. There are so many other challenges that are confronting the sector. There is no need to add this one. There is need for us to have a conversation. Yes, if prices must go up, and prices of all products are going up, but we have to deal effectively as business people, because the discos are businessmen, manufacturers are businessmen. We should be able to have a decent conversation that guarantees the survival of both parties. So you do not set up a scenario that leads to deindustrialization. That would not be good for anyone. There are job implications, there's revenue to government, there is social order that it may distort. We have so many workers whose life are dependent on this. And we have all said we wanted to grow manufacturing contribution to the GDP. This certainly cannot be the way to achieve it. Tolu?
Getting more worrisome as we move on by. Now, we talked earlier and we say banks were posting profits, and we've seen that. But for consumer goods, which is in the manufacturing space, that's not the case for them. So my question really would be, with all of these reforms, are you optimistic that we would get it right? Where do you think that more companies will not exit Nigeria? That's also a worrisome trend that doesn't have to continue.
Okay, Tony, let me tell you a little joke that one of my friends in the manufacturing sector is a CEO. So he told me that while bankers are smiling home, manufacturers are crying home. And you see, when you have that kind of scenario, your economy will not grow. We need manufacturing, and it is very critical. Of course, we do know that every economy, government, and even the banking sector seeks to grow the real sector. So I think there has to be a conversation and a realization that wherever the country's money is, whether it's people's money, whether it's government's money, whether it is business money, it has to be focused. There has to be an arrangement that allows the pool to be put at the disposal of productivity, so that we can grow the sector. And whenever you talk about productivity, the manufacturing sector should come tops. But, you know, Nigeria is a very great country. And I can tell you, even if things are looking bad, it will take a great deal to distort the destiny of this country. The manufacturing sector is very resilient. And in spite of everything, we are still looking forward to growth, because we are not only relying on government policies to grow our business, we are also doing self-reflection. we're also looking through our processes. We are also doing the best changes that is possible, leveraging on each other's strengths to be able to improve our level of resilience and our capacity to survive in the environment. So we look forward to a future where working with government. And I must tell you, Tolu, government has shown good faith in terms of engaging us. I mean, government is probably best informed now about what is needed to be done for us to be able to grow the manufacturing sector. So I think it's time for us to move to the next stage, which is doing what we have told government, doing what government has agreed is the right thing to do, and just getting ahead to do it. Because there are so many unexplored potentials of the manufacturing sector that can grow our GDP beyond the mediocre performance that we have been doing in the past. So I believe that the future, we look at the future with a lot of hope. We still believe that progress is possible in the second half of the year, and with the engagements and involvement that we are having in the process, in the policy incubation process, and looking forward to being part of the implementation, we should be able to grow the manufacturing sector. There are so many challenges that we have, but we are having good conversation with government, and we believe that we should rapidly conclude those conversations and move forward to implementation, because time is really running out, and there are very small countries around Africa that are making rapid progress. They shouldn't occupy the space that we rightly deserve in the continent.
Before I let you go in 2 minutes, what's the update with regards to sweetened drinks? I think the tax issue around some sugar sweetened drinks and of course some sachet drinks. What's the update with regards to these two issues and how our manufacturers also coping?
Well, our perception is that government, President Tinubu, in taking the right decisions he took when the matter became very contentious after he assumed the position of leadership last year, we were hopeful that that would be sustained. But in more recent times, we have seen some groups in particular that are actually singing from the hymn book of foreign agencies and institutions that are actually prodding government to go in the direction that it shouldn't. And we have them in NGOs, in group rights, and so on, talking about the danger in the consumption of sugar. But these are completely baseless. They lack any scientific evidence, and we have demonstrated it in studies that are in the possession of government. What they do not know is that you cannot prescribe the same medicine for two different people that are suffering two different ailments. It is not possible for you to grow our economy using recipes that are derived from completely different environments. And we do not have the challenges that they are claiming. We have subjected this to scientific examination, and we have made recommendations to government. So our thinking is that, and to the best of our knowledge, government position has not changed. We are not going to impose all those bans and the increases that they are talking about, because they are completely baseless, and they have not been able to prove in any way that our health system is being overrun. I mean, we have all the information and all the data about government spend and what those issues amount to. So we still believe that government will not be swayed by these NGOs that are looking up to marking their KPIs and not acting in concert with the economic realities that we have. And we have our regulators who are satisfied with the progress that is being made in terms of responsible consumption and in terms of engaging them as to what our standards.
Jai Kadri, thank you. Do have a great weekend.
And thank you for having me, Tolu. Have a great weekend.
All right, there. Well,